Ever wonder why your body stores fat even when you're eating healthy? It's not your fault. You're stuck in a survival mechanism from the Ice Age, the Randle Cycle, and in today's world, it's backfiring. Let me show you why this ancient fuel switch is breaking your metabolism. Hey, my name is Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is part of my question and answer series. Why your body fights itself on modern food. The Randle Cycle explained. Okay, let's get to the question. You've described this beautiful biochemical cascade where the cell essentially gets overwhelmed by abundance. But here's what I'm curious about. You mentioned this is an ancient survival mechanism that becomes problematic in modern contexts. What specific evolutionary pressures shaped the Randle cycle to work this way, and why would our ancestors have needed this fuel competition system in the first place? Well, that's a great question. It cuts to the why behind the Randle cycle's design. This elegant but now maladaptive system evolved under conditions of scarcity and unpredictability, not the chronic energy excess we face today. Let's explore the evolutionary pressures that shaped the Randle cycle and why fuel competition made perfect adaptive sense for our ancestors. Okay? So, what is the Randle cycle evolutionarily speaking? At its core, the Randle cycle is a metabolic prioritization system that allows the body to switch efficiently between glucose and fat as fuel sources, avoid burning both simultaneously, which would waste energy, prevent hyperglycemia during fasting. Hypoglycemia, right? That is when your blood sugar gets too low, okay? And maximize energy use depending on availability and context. It's a gatekeeper, deciding which fuel gets burned and which one gets stored. Okay? So, there is evolutionary pressures that shape the Randle cycle. The first, and this is a big one here for modern day society, is seasonal food availability. In temperate climates, early humans experienced summers with carb-rich fruits, roots, and honey, and winters with scarce food plants but reliance on stored fat and animal meat. Right? And in modern context, we just don't have any of that now. We have both all the time. The body needed to switch seamlessly between glycolytic, carb burning, and lipolytic, fat burning states. Right? Because you either had one or the other. Randle cycle allowed this fuel switching based on environmental cues. Insulin for summer feeding, glucagon and cortisol for winter feasting, right? Or winter fasting. And you want to burn with whatever fuel you're trying to burn, fat or sugar, you want to burn it most efficiently, right? You want to have the seasonal food adjust your metabolism, adjust to whatever seasonally food is available, adjust to the fact that you're going to have intermittent seasons of starvation and feasting, that you want to prioritize your muscle, right, movement during these periods, and you want to limit reactive oxygen species in your mitochondria, which is causes all kinds of inflammation. So that's the reason for having this, and it really is very efficient. But it's not designed for having like food 24/7 continually shoved down your in your face all the time. The Randle cycle, it's designed for intermittent starvation and feasting cycles. So hunter-gatherers did not eat 3 meals a day. They had long periods of fasting, right, between hunts and kills and feasting, which meant reliance on fatty acids and ketones for brain and muscle. Sudden success in a hunt or discovery of fruit meant a glucose influx. So the Randle cycle helps prevent the cell from oxidizing both fuels at once. This preserves insulin sensitivity and limits oxidative stress from overloaded mitochondria. The system evolved to maximize efficiency and minimize damage in feast-famine cycling. It also is an energy manager, and one of the things it's trying to manage is prioritization of fuel to your muscles so you can continue moving, right? Skeletal muscle is a massive glucose sink during activity. During fasting or endurance exertion, fatty acid oxidation is upregulated to preserve glucose for the brain and red blood cells. When glucose becomes available, fat oxidation is suppressed via Randle mechanism to allow glycogen restoration. Right? So the whole idea here is to store away the stuff you definitely want to have access to and use the most available food sources and use it as efficiently as possible. Fuel switching ensures survival in both high exertion and low food environments. Okay? And there are some major issues with if the Randle cycle is dysfunctioning, right? So the first thing is you're trying to minimize, once again we talked about reactive oxygen species in mitochondria, and oxidizing both fat and glucose simultaneously leads to high NADH FADH2 pressure, which makes your mitochondria not work properly, ETC overload, which disturbs your ability to produce ADP, which is the fuel, and you produce excess ROSs, which is reactive oxygen species, which is where all of the oxidative stress enters, right? So you get chronic PDH inhibition, right, which helps control which fuel is being burned. Your mitochondrial gets tired trying to keep up with burning both of them at the same time. It really can't. You have persistent hyperinsulinemia, right, because of it sees all this glucose and fat and everything, and hyperinsulinemia causes that's having too much insulin constantly, and if you sustain that state, you get insulin resistance, and insulin resistance to metabolic disease is the effect of all of this thing. And so if you want to break that cycle, you got to make your cells more efficient at what they're burning for energy, which means you have to control the fuel sources and the energy that you're providing them. Okay? So you want to reclaim your metabolic flexibility. And you can do this through intermittent fasting, regular exercise. You want to use a nutrient-dense diet, and you want to manage stress. But here's why it becomes very important. Because in today's society, if you're not conscious of what you're doing, right, and you just feed the way the marketers, let's say, right, the people who try to sell you whatever want you to eat, it gets really bad because your body's designed for ancestrally to survive on the scarce energy, which means fasting and feasting cycles, right? Not this constant caloric surplus we have today. You're designed to eat in cycles. Fruit when it's available, meat when you hunt it down and get it, right? But not like a constant source of eating fruit, meat, and grains and all this other stuff all at the same time. Where today you're just eating 24/7, right? You're told to eat 6 meals a day, 3 meals plus 3 snacks, and it's like you're just constantly eating. Back then you had high exertion, but it wasn't like you were playing a football game or something, right? And it doesn't matter if it's American football or European soccer or football, right? Football is like, very short bursts for an hour or two of constant effort, right? No. They had high exertion. They were hunting game. So they would have to hunt through the game, or they were walking everywhere, right? And today, you're just sitting watching other people work. And that just doesn't work, okay? Ancestrally, we adapted to eat essentially one food at a time. Was it meat that we hunted, or was it fruit that was readily available, right? If the tree and the fruit was ripe, you just sat under the tree and ate the fruit, and you didn't need to go out and get anything else. Okay, today we're overloading our systems and eating everything, whether it's in seasonal for us or not. And ancestrally, they had a very low insulin baseline because they weren't fighting their system, causing hyperinsulinemia, right? Where today we're chronically hyperinsulinic. We're eating so many carbs and fat and proteins and and carbs all at the same time that our body can't handle it, and so we never get to the point where we're doing anything other than producing insulin, storing fat, and getting sicker. Okay, so what we're doing is we're bypassing the Randle cycle's protective intent. We push both fuels into the system all day with no fasting, no movement, and no metabolic flexibility. And that leads to chronic PDH inhibition. So PDH, that stands for pyruvate dehydrogenase, PDH, right? It's a key mitochondrial enzyme that controls the entry of carbohydrates into the energy production pathway. So if you're inhibiting PDH, your mitochondria are not burning the glucose as efficiently. And here's the problem: if you're eating a lot of glucose, it's in your blood, right? So your blood sugar goes up. That's toxic to your body. Your body's trying to get your system to do something with it. If it can't burn it, what's it going to do with the blood sugar? It's going to turn it into fat. Okay? And by the way, when your mitochondria are trying to burn sugar, they can't burn fat, and so you're down a road to just gaining pounds and not ever efficiently using the fuel you're doing, right? Persistent hyperinsulinemia. You have high levels of insulin all the time, and that causes insulin resistance and metabolic disease, and it's probably the number one cause of insulin resistance and metabolic disease is having hyperinsulinemia all the time. And insulin resistance and metabolic disease cause all of the chronic illnesses for the most part that you're looking at. It's the bottom line for diabetes and or pre-diabetic conditions and obesity and being overweight and having we're finding lots of connections with cancers and stuff, which can be tied to having metabolic diseases, right? So this is not a joke. This is important stuff. And mitochondrial fatigue, right? Which is the engines in the cells just get tired trying to keep up with constantly switching back and forth between glucose and fat and having their signals, right? Because remember, most of the stuff we're talking about are signals, are signaling cues to the cells on what to do. And it's like going to your car and constantly cranking the engine, turning it on. It's not good for it, okay? So this is why this is not good. It's I don't know if I see a few people that have these multiple fuel cars. You know, the ones that could take gasoline or I don't think they run diesel, but they run the diesel haul, which is with the alcohol that's from grain alcohol, right? And there are variations of that, and you can do that. The problem is you don't fill your tank with gasoline and then fill it up a few miles down the road with the gasohol, and then you don't fill up a little bit with the bio stuff that it can run, because it just all gets mixed up in the tank and it just really destroys that engine. Well, the same thing's happening with your body. Your body is designed to eat primarily animal fat as its primary fuel and proteins to help build your muscles, right? And it's not supposed to have glucose when you're eating that stuff. So go hunt your animal and eat it, right? And that's the way the body was designed. Oh, you happen to be walking around and you see a treat and the fruit is ripe. Remember, fruit is not ripe 12 months out of the year. Fruit is only ripe for a few weeks at most, right? Typically. And it's not that sugary candy bombs you buy at the grocery store. These fruits were not nearly as large, not nearly as sweet, and when they were ripe, you ate them right away, okay? The ancient fruits. And so, yeah, you sit down under the tree where the fruit's ripe and you eat a bunch of fruit that day and you don't eat anything else, and you're good for a couple of days. Okay? It's not about being able to gorge on meat and fruit and grains and starches and everything else you're eating. No, your body's not designed to eat that way. It just doesn't work. The idea of having a rainbow on your plate where you have everything. No, your body's not designed for that. Okay, it's designed to eat, to process one basic type of food, animal food or plant food. Never the both at the same time, and not as much of the plant food as you might think. All right. So in summary here, the Randle Cycle is evolution's energy manager. The Randle Cycle wasn't designed to punish us. It was a smart adaptive fuel management system that optimized survival in an unpredictable world. But when you flood the engine with fuel all the time, that once beautiful system becomes a bottleneck. What once protected us now betrays us. Not because the system is broken, but because we've broken the context. All right. Thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comment section, please. If you have some ideas for things you'd like me to cover, this is a community. We're here to work with each other to learn. Let me know what you're looking for, and I'll add it to my list of videos I'm producing. And as always, if you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, share this video with somebody who might need it. I do appreciate that. It helps the channel a great deal. Thank you.